President Cyril Ramaphosa has been on a charm offensive to attract foreign investors, and he has promised reforms that will make doing business in South Africa easier. But the question we're asking is, can he restore confidence? And tonight I'm joined in the studio by Mteto Nyati, the Chief Executive of Altron, and we hope to talk to an economist based in London a short while later. But Mteto, pleasure to catch up with you.
Thank you for having me, Tim.
Well, I think we have to put the economy at the top of the agenda whenever we talk about the new government post-elections. So for you, as a business leader, what do you think should be the key issues that President Cyril Ramaphosa focuses on once he gets installed? I mean, he's been in the office for some time, yes. But, you know, with the new mandate from the people this time, I'm sure the expectations are much higher than a few months ago.
Look, we've got high expectations. Now he's got the mandate. He finished somebody else's term. Now he's got his own mandate. We feel that he needs to be taking bold steps as business. And what are some of those bold steps? I'll start from within our own industry. You know, in our own industry, we have been struggling with regards to the spectrum. We need to have the spectrum allocated to the mobile operators. So that's the first thing that I believe it needs to be done. Secondly, we need to accelerate the work that he has been doing in the SOEs. You know? Good work, putting together the boards there, but we need to start now starting to see some action happening there. You know? So that's really the second thing. The third thing, when it comes to, we need to address the whole issue of Eskom. Eskom is actually a big danger for the economy here. You know, breaking it up, is it really going to be able to solve the problem? Are we ever going to be able to drive down the costs if we're not going to be taking people out? You know, so we cannot do both. You know, in business, if you want to drive down costs, you have to take certain things out. If you are promising that there's not going to be any retrenchments, we need to be honest and open about these things, you know, so that we can have agreements with labor, with business about what needs to be done, you know, tackling the issues together.
Well, let's deal with the first point first. You say the issue of spectrum for the communications companies, the cell phone operators, and everybody else who's in that space is an outstanding issue. It's been on the agenda for quite a while, and from your experience, it is something that should have been done, I want to believe, several years ago.
Should have been done 10 years ago.
10 years ago. But what do you think, you know, firstly, what held it back in the first instance? And secondly, why is it important that it should be one of the urgent things that the president deals with?
So what we believe held it back is the belief that we currently have, we lack competition within the mobile space. Yeah. We currently have about 5 operators in the mobile space. You know, that to me is a lot of competition already. To introduce new players in that space, I'm not sure whether they're going to be able to survive. So the idea that we need to be introducing, it probably is a flawed idea, you know. So that's the first thing. We need to make sure, ask ourselves, what is the different way to introduce new players without holding the spectrum? What are the consequences of not giving out the spectrum? My mom or my gogo sitting out there in the rural areas, they are spending a huge amount on data because data is so key, you know. Immediately you give the spectrum, the mobile operators will be able to provide these services at a much lower rate, because at that time they don't have to be installing too many towers, thus reducing significantly their costs. So we will be actually impacting positively the whole economy, because the cost of communication within South Africa will come down for business and for individuals. And that money that is being saved will be used elsewhere, thus helping the economy.
Because you are familiar with the issues there, I have to ask you this question. The impression or view held by average South Africans, we think that it is the big companies, right, the cell phone operators themselves, who are greedy and are charging us these exorbitant prices. Very few would blame the regulators for that.
Look, I used to run MTN South Africa. I know for sure that it's not in their interest to have the prices going up. Their interest is to have and more people affording their product. And to do that, they need the spectrum. That is what is required. They need a spectrum, and then you'll start to have more people using their product for a long time.
Is it a question of a decision being taken, and that's it? Or is it something that has got to be acquired somewhere that might increase taxes, might have a political impact, I don't know. I mean, sometimes we take life for granted, right? Yes. When we're sitting outside and we're observing, you say, okay, why is Mteto not taking this decision? What's making it difficult for him to decide on a matter that can benefit millions of people?
The problem, most of the time, we're trying to solve not just one problem. We're trying to solve 10,000 problems using one tool. You see, immediately to do that, you are going to be stuck. There is this thing, we're trying to drive down costs, just allocate the spectrum. Yeah. But you are trying to drive down costs, but you are also trying to make sure that there are many more players that are within the industry. You are also wanting...
I suppose, I mean, the citizens, yes, as well as the users of these services, yes, they don't want more players. They want cheaper data.
That's all that they want. They want affordable services. That's what they want.
Yeah.
And they are going to get that. Immediately you give these guys the spectrum. That's what they're going to get.
So, as a business leader yourself, I ask you, what makes it difficult to take a decision of that nature? Is it because
the good thing is that the President Cyril Ramaphosa, including Tito Mboweni, they have made a commitment that is going to be done.
Okay, yeah. And it's something that they are familiar with and have given attention to.
Exactly.
Now, the second point, you said that the SOEs, the state-owned entities, yes, that you think that with the appointment of new boards and new management, things will turn around.
Yes.
But the question is, do we need all of them? I'm told the number is in the order of 700.
Yes.
I'm separating ESCOM from that because that's a special, unique case with its own problems. But, okay. You can appoint as many people as you want to the boards, but how do you get them?
I referred to the fact that the president and the new cabinet need to be bold. What I meant by that is that we really need to ask ourselves exactly that question. What is it that we think we can do? What is it that we believe that the market can do on behalf of the country? And I believe we can give many of these state-owned enterprises into the private sector, and they can run them very, very, very efficiently than we're currently doing today.
So probably you could even drive BEE through that, I'm imagining.
You can drive BEE, you can drive this industrialization, the black industrialists, you can drive many, many other agendas just by privatizing. You don't have to hold these things in the state.
Now, the ESCOM is the more complicated one. There are several issues there, besides the performance of the company, the fact that it's got such a high debt burden, right? That's got to be serviced, and ultimately it's going to be the taxpayers who service that. So what do you think, at least in the short to medium term, would be an easier way of turning ESCOM around?
There is no easy way of turning ESCOM around. You have to make the tough calls.
Yeah.
Right now, if you look at the debt and the interest that the interest that ESCOM is paying for that debt, you look at the income of ESCOM. The income is less than the interest that is being paid. So you have to find a way of reducing your costs as ESCOM to become even more profitable. Reducing costs, it means taking out some of the people.
All right, well, you call us 011-759-6340, and we have Moses, who's joining us from Soweto, who'd like to comment on this discussion. Moses, welcome.
Thank you. I really like your question, but what I want to say is that if we can wait for one person to turn the situation around, we won't get the results that we are all expecting. But if majority of us can support Ramaphosa, meaning that if we can have millions of people like Ramaphosa in South Africa willing to turn around the economy, then we can have the results that we're expecting. But imagine 50 million people expecting one person to change the situation around. We'll wait until when Jesus comes back if we don't unite and support our leadership. But if majority of the people are going to be spectators in their own country and then watching the government people to say that the ministers and the president will change the situation, it will never happen. But we need everyone to stand up and say that we want to build the South Africa that we all want.
Well,
Thank you very much.
I appreciate your comments, Moses. The economy should be everybody's concern. And of course, we've got to demand answers from our leaders. Now, we're talking about the president. Then there's a question of the type of cabinet he puts together. I'm sure it's exercising your mind together with other business leaders. You're talking about this. What would you see as a useful signal from on the part of the president that indicates that indeed the key questions of the day are going to be dealt with?
Look, it's going to be, it's very clear. The message has been given to the president just before the election. People have been telling him that we need to make sure that the people that get appointed, at least they need to be clean. You know, that will be a very good indication to us. Some of us were very, very surprised and disappointed when we saw him bringing some of the people in the last cabinet that he appointed. We hope that that is not going to happen this time. That will then make sure that what he has been saying and what he's doing are aligned. So that's the first thing. But in line again to what Moses has just commented, we really cannot place all of our eggs and everything and our hopes in one person, or even the cabinet for that matter. We are all leaders in our own areas of responsibility. We need to be working together in our little areas and trying to make sure that South Africa works.
But you know, a lot of people will tell you that how do you work together in an environment where there's widespread corruption, for instance? We know the situation at municipal level, as an example. The story of Makanda, former Grahamstown, right? You're familiar with it. What happened to the Gift of the Givers? They are a philanthropic organization, at least in their case. Imagine if that were a business, for instance, having put in so much money to try and alleviate a problem that was made or created by those who are supposed to be providing this public service.
If you look at, for example, a company like an organization like Business Leadership South Africa, as the leaders and the CEOs of these about 70, 80 large companies in South Africa, we felt, yes, there's corruption, but let's go and strengthen the institutions that are trying to fight that corruption. We are taking a step that is trying to address the problem. You can always complain. The easier thing is to complain. Find something that you can do, and this is what many progressive South Africans are doing.
I want to ask you, we can hold on to the thought. I'm asking you the question now. What would you like to see that would give you an indication that the efforts on the part of the business leaders to fight corruption are bearing fruit? Think about it. You'll tell me in a moment. But let's talk to Emily, who's joining us from Durban. Emily, welcome.
Hello?
Yeah. You're with us. Go ahead.
Yes. For corruption, I think if ever we can have enough police in South Africa, but not those who like dizzying on the street. If ever they getting the people from the street doing corruption, and then they just want to bribe. If ever the bribe can stop, everything can be all right in South Africa.
Thank you very much, Emily, for that. And to come back to my question, what is it that you would like to see that gives you a sense, or you're already seeing, that gives you a sense that indeed the fight against corruption is beginning to bear fruit?
Look, recently we've seen the mayor of eThekwini, being taken to court. Those are signals to us. We like that. We like to see that. We like to see people that have done wrong things being put to book. Those are the practical actions that we like to see. And indeed, I think now the NPA, you are going to start to see more and more action being taken.
Course, the new appointment that was announced.
Exactly. And that is encouraging to us.
Sure. Now, we can talk about the economy and what needs to happen to attract investment. The growth is very critical when jobs have got to be created. I'm going to have a discussion in a short while about youth unemployment. But from where you're sitting, what are the big ideas that you think can help break the back of the high unemployment rate?
We've got a tool here in South Africa, and that tool is called the BEE policy. If you go and reflect on this, we have been having it maybe now for 23 years, and we need to ask ourselves, has it really worked? The way it's designed, has it really worked? And the answer, I would say, is actually mixed. Yes, there are few people that have benefited, but in the main, it has really not achieved its intended purpose. I would say that we need to relook at that BEE policy and ask ourselves, how can we structure it, simplify it first, and structure it in such a way that we address youth unemployment and we also address only two things, address enterprise development, small businesses. Just focus, don't try and boil the ocean. Just look at two things. And don't use it as a stick. Why don't you do it like this? You know, the more people employ unemployed people, you give credit to those companies in terms of tax. You know, they get less, paying less tax. You know, and in that way, you are encouraging the companies to do the right things. You know, at the same time, now that you've got people being employed, those people are also contributing towards tax.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
So you know, we are always trying to come with a big stick, whereas we need to find ways, very innovative, simple ways to address the problem.
And of course, once an idea takes root and works, it becomes a way of doing things.
Exactly.
It becomes part of the cultural makeup of a people, and then you end up with an entrepreneurial nation in due time. Well, I appreciate your time and your thoughts that you shared with us this evening.
Thank you so much.
And thanks very much, Mteto.
Thank you, Tim.
That's Mteto Nyati, the CEO of Altron. Coming up after the break, I'll be talking to the CEO of Youth Employment Services, as well as the CEO of Ngoma Empowerment Group. They'll be talking about ways to break the high rate of youth unemployment. Don't go away.